So it happens to be this man's birthday. We're talking about Greg Palast. Happy birthday, Greg. You know him. Noam Chomsky referred to Greg Palast, quote, "He upsets all the right people." In Britain, Greg Palast has been called the most important investigative reporter of our time for his work for BBC Television and The Guardian. Greg Palast, author of the New York Times bestsellers, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, Armed Manhouse, Vulture's Picnic, and Billionaires with a B, and Ballot Bandits. He's now completing a feature documentary of his bestsellers with his latest investigations of vote theft and billionaires funding it. Let's say hi to Greg Palast.
I'm not here for Sanders, and I'm just here reporting. And but I needed to borrow your microphone, because when I try to report, they don't hear it. So, I used to be a regular on, I just saw up here, headline news. And I can tell you this, I didn't get any head, I didn't go for the corporate line, and there was no news. So, I had to go to exile, reporting from Britain for BBC and The Guardian. Thank you, Rolling Stone, for bringing me back home. But right now, I need you to report the news to CNN, okay? Because they kind of missed it. See, because the night of the California primary, CNN announced, with MSDNC and all the rest of the gang, CBS, which is not an eye, it's just a pimple on the rectum of Viacom. And since they missed the news, we're going to tell them. They said they reported 100% of precincts reporting Hillary Clinton has won by 400,000 votes. Now I'm going to ask you to say this number out loud because I want them to hear it. 1,959,000. 900. That's the amount of ballots that were not yet counted when they said 100% of precincts had reported and Hillary had won. Now it is kissing distance. It is kissing distance, that number, from 2 million, right? So how do you say an election's over when there are 2 million ballots yet to count? Okay, now, whose ballots are they?
Our ballots.
Well, I'm an investigative reporter, so I did something that they didn't do. I called up the Secretary of State's office and said, whose ballots are they? And what they said was, it's almost all of those 2 million ballots, the vast majority are NPP ballots. What does that mean? It means no party preference, independent, people are really independent, who according to the Golden State poll, were voting with a 40% plurality for Sanders. Now do the math. The registered Democrats were, the party people were for their party girl. And so, but if you do the math, and believe it or not, before as a reporter, I used to be a professor of statistics. So I went into the numbers, and I will say, honestly, Hillary Clinton in that pile got 750,000 votes based on demographics. Bernie Sanders got at least 1.25 million votes, 1.25. That means, unless you have been victimized by the No Child Behind Los Angeles City schools, you would know that that means that Bernie Sanders has won the state of California. That's the news, not the good news, because to me, it's just the news. It's a fact. But here's the bad news. That's the news that Sanders won California. The bad news is that they ain't going to tell you that. The good news is that if you count every ballot, Sanders would win by roughly 100,000. But the bad news is they ain't going to count all the ballots. The nasty little secret of America's democracy, and you see Bernie getting his head beat in by cops in Chicago, right? The nasty little secret of American democracy is that we don't count all the votes. Now, what's happened this time, for those who don't know me, when I was first reporting for the BBC and the Guardian in London, I had discovered back in 2000 that a woman named Catherine Harris, who was the Secretary of State of Florida, had removed, just before the election, had removed 58,000 black men from the voter rolls, calling them criminals. Their only crime, by the way, was voting while black, but that is a crime. And George Bush supposedly won by 537 votes, not counting 58,000 black people. That's been happening in 2000. It happened in 2004. They stole over 6 million votes. My co-writer, Rolling Stone, Bobby Kennedy, and I calculated 6 million votes taken away from minority voters in 8 and 12 was overwhelmed, but the votes are still stolen. They're going to do it again. So what happened in California is something very unusual. They treated you, the Sanders voters, as if you had all turned black. That's what's happening in America. We have an apartheid voting system, okay? And I just came back from Ohio, where suddenly 500,000 African Americans and minority people have just disappeared from the voter rolls. Poof! Where did they go? Where did they go? Okay, so now we have a responsibility. It doesn't end here. Okay, I'm going to tell you about one guy who gave me some very good advice, Satan. Okay, or as you would know him, the Reverend Pat Robertson. Okay, I was investigating him and I snuck in with a hidden tape recorder and talked to him, and I said, Pat, you ran for president. This was back in '88. You ran for president. He said, God told you to run for president. And he said, and I said, with a campaign manager like that, how can you lose the election? And he said, God didn't tell me, the Lord didn't tell me to win. He told me to run. Now, and he said, listen, out of that campaign, I created the Christian Coalition, 3 million zombies, photo zombies. 3 million people, and nothing takes a crap in the Republican Party without our approval. Now, this is a hint, ladies and gentlemen. Are you going to take this political moment and just have it on your iPhone for your grandchildren, or are you going to take this political moment and turn it into a permanent movement? What is needed now is an Christian coalition. What is needed now is a permanent movement that says we're going to count all the votes, we're going to house all the people, we're going to feed all the hungry, we are going to we're going to have something in America. I'm telling you, democracy is coming to America, and you're going to bring it there. Make every vote count. Listen. Okay, and I want everyone to go to www.gregpalast.com. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to tell you to download for free something called 7 Ways to Beat the Ballot Bandits, so you do not lose your vote. And there's a free comic book by me and Bobby Kennedy, Ted Roth. Download it, keep it, protect your ballot. Think of it as a ballot condom that protects your vote. Go to gregpalast.com. And don't worry about, Hillary, Trump. Trump's easy. You just tell him, we just build a wall around Donald and make him pay for it. See you later. Thank you so much for inviting me.